Hi there, I'm Mrs. Clark Reed, and this is an introduction to my English 10 and English 10 honors classes. We're off to a really good start this year, and I'm actually really excited about trying to take advantage of the opportunities this year will bring to us. So let's start with what a typical English class will look like this year. Each day we have class, we all meet together at the beginning of the period and go through the day's schedule. It looks a lot like this. I make it a point to start on time. Going through the agenda is important for a lot of students. It gives them a sense of what they can expect for the day, which alleviates stress. However, it isn't imperative, so it does give some wiggle room for those who are having connection issues to hop on before the real fun begins. Actual class time consists of a variety of activities. There will be some live instruction from yours truly. I don't record my lessons usually, but I almost always post the day's slide presentations on Google Classroom for those who need to go back or for those who were absent. The upside of distance learning, did I just say there was an upside to distance learning? I did indeed. The upside is that we get to play around with a lot of cool technology. We still get to meet through Zoom, including getting into breakout rooms for smaller group discussions. If someone's really shy, he or she can actually type their comments in the chat and still have their voice heard, which is hard to get in an in-person classroom setting. Then we also have programs like Edpuzzle and Google Docs that will allow students to work independently. I really think it's going to be a good year. One thing that your students will be learning this year, other than the fact that I've gone completely Bitmoji happy, is the idea of a writer or a speaker needing to establish ethos or credibility. That's what this slide is all about. Why should you trust me to teach your children? So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been teaching since 1996, right after getting my teaching credential from Berkeley University. I took a 2-year break to head to New York to get a master's degree from Columbia University. Despite the many student loans that I racked up from there, I absolutely love my job. I really can't imagine doing anything else. In fact, teaching is the only thing that takes me away from my amazing family. Here they are. Both of my daughters go to GUSD schools. In fact, my older daughter is in 10th grade, and I've actually known quite a few of my current students through her since they were in kindergarten. My husband is a professor of geography at GCC, and the four of us are all here together every day in 4 different Zoom meetings. So believe me, I completely understand what you are going through, and I'm going to do my best to help us make the best of it and still ensure that your child gets a thorough and inspiring education in English language arts this year. All right, let's take a quick look at how my Google Classroom is organized. The stream is updated every day the class meets, and the stream automatically puts the most recent information on top. They can also go to the classwork page where everything is organized into 3 sections. Zoom links, which is where they'll find the day's Zoom link and my office hours Zoom link. Past Zoom materials, where I will put any materials I use and the slide presentations I use during class. This will be especially helpful for when students miss class or need to review. And then assignments, which are the things that they need to do and or turn in. The plan is to make this year's curriculum emulate the curriculum I would do in any school year. We'll have at least 1 Shakespeare for the sophomore classes, and my honors classes will most likely read 2 of the Bard's plays. We have access to a lot of great short stories, and nonfiction is also a big part of this class. With the elections coming up, it's perfect timing for looking at political cartoons and political ads analytically. Just about everything we read will be followed by a piece of writing. What kind of writing, you ask? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Although we'll spend some time reading fiction, the writing in this class actually focuses on nonfiction, particularly argument. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, great, you're teaching my teenager how to argue. I know. Remember, I have a teenager too, and my hope is that when she argues, she knows what makes a good argument. How does she form a claim that coincides with both reality and her own values? And then how does she convey that information to an audience that may not share those same values? How does she gather evidence? And especially these days, how does she figure out what evidence can be trusted? The amount of information out there is staggering, and it's our job to make sure they can navigate it through it all safely and accurately. We'll also be focusing on other types of writing this year. The rhetorical analysis will be something new to most of my students. My math science students tend to like this one. It's very structured and analytical. For the honors students, The argument, rhetorical analysis, and synthesis essays will be imperative, as they are the three essays that are tested on the AP language exam, which they'll take next year if they stay on the advanced path. 10th grade is also the big research paper year, which is one of my favorite units to teach. And we'll also have a little fun with parodies and poetry for those students who like to get their creative juices flowing. As I said, my goal is to treat this class's curriculum as I would any other year. We'll still be giving presentations, both individually and in groups. We'll still have class discussions, especially in small groups. Collaborative learning really is great if done correctly. Students who already understand something well are forced to verbalize their understanding, which concretizes it in their minds. And then students who don't understand a concept get more individualized attention than they would in a class of 38 students. We also will work on grammar in this class. Many of the students have not been taught grammar in the past, but it is so helpful for them to understand it, especially when they're writing. If I read their essay and I need them to go easy on the passive voice, they need to know what the passive voice is and why they should avoid it. They'll often hear me say, complex sentences often show complex ideas, but they need to know what a complex sentence is and then think about why they would use one and when a simple sentence is the better choice. Sometimes it is. I do my best to make grammar fun. I know that sounds oxymoronic, but ask them about Weird Al Wednesdays. It tends to be one of the main things for which I'm remembered. It's always important to me to have a student's writing as the bulk of the grade. Their writing truly gives me a better idea of what the student really understands, much more so than a multiple choice test or worksheets in which the students are able to get help. Assessments are a little strange this year, I have to say. All tests that fall into this category will be taken synchronously, which means that students will need to take them during class time. The rest of the class grade will consist of activities that we work on in class and have time to discuss as a class or even in small groups before they turn it in, or activities they do outside of class hours. If your kiddo is having any technical issues, the GUSD tech support team is really good. If you're having any tech issues, give them a call. They've probably heard the problem before, and they have the resources to help you out, including Chromebooks that you can borrow for the rest of the year and or a Wi-Fi hotspot if your Zoom meetings keep dropping out. GHS also pays for a tutoring program run through the Princeton Review. It's available to all GHS students 24 hours a day, every day. So if they're doing their homework after their old decrepit English teacher has gone to bed, they can still get the help that they need. They can use the chat feature if they have a quick question, like a grammar question or a sentence structure question. And they also have a way to turn in an entire essay and get detailed feedback from college-educated tutors before they turn it in for a grade. It's a great resource, and I encourage all of my students to take advantage of it. Of course, they do pay me tens of thousands of dollars to teach your children, so they can always ask me for help too. Let's take a look at how they can get to me. If a student has an individual question, all GUSD teachers have 2 sets of office hours during this time. For those early birds, Wednesdays before school from 8 to 8:50 is a time when we're all available. I am also available Mondays after school from 2:20 to 3:15. These are the best times to ask questions or make up tests and other work. The link to my office hours is on my Google Classroom. Of course, if these times don't work, we can always make an appointment or they can contact me asynchronously. The students should all have access to these various ways of contacting me outside of class time. Most of them will use the Remind app, which sends texts directly to my phone, or the private comments through Google Classroom, which will also notify me on my phone. Email tends to be the best option for parents. So if you ever have a question or want to set up a Zoom conference with me, shoot me an email and I'll get back to you within a day. That's it for tonight. Thank you all for coming, and I wish for you and your families to be good and be well. Our last Weird Al Wednesday covered good versus well, so you should be able to ask your kids what the difference is. Good night.